Hello and welcome to Fats on Film. I am your host, Hannah Ogilvie-Young, and this is a podcast where we talk all things fat representation in film, TV, and wider media. This week, I am joined by Karolina Howie, who is a fat content creator and podcaster, host of the podcast Big, Blonde and Beautiful, where she discusses fat representation in the media. What an interesting subject, Karolina. Happy to have you here.
Happy to be here.
How's
Thank
it going
you for
with
having
you?
me. It's going pretty well. I've been pretty busy,
Yeah.
but that's life. And
That's life. So tell me about Big Blonde and Beautiful. Where did this idea come for you?
So I always wanted to do a podcast, but I wanted to do it like with my friends, but we could
Love.
never like figure out an idea that we could all be interested in.
Yeah.
And so, I was just thinking, and I got my major in media and cinema studies from the University of Illinois. And I was like, I kind of want to start a podcast. And I'm like, well, I love film and I'm fat. Fat representation in media? Yeah. So that's kind of how it came about.
Totally. And like, tell me, when you started explaining this idea to people, you're like, hey, I'm thinking about this podcast, but talk about fat representation in media. Like, what were people's responses to that? Did people seem intrigued? Were they like, well, I never thought of that before?
Yeah, my friends were like, that sounds awesome and right up your alley. So for sure, go for it. And ironically, a lot of my mom's friends really love it. They love the podcast. They listen a lot. They're like, I never thought of this, or I love that you're posting this because when I was a kid, I felt this way. And I'm like, period.
That is gorgeous. That's exactly what we do, why we do.
Mm-hmm.
I know, being a fat person and watching the media that we consume as children, it can feel very isolating. And I think it's really nice to hear that an older generation is, potentially recognizing why they feel how they feel through listening to your podcast and just breaking it down and maybe opening the door to be like, you're not on your own here, because quite a few of us were made to feel like this because of watching, this film, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So, obviously, we have a very shared vested interest in each other's podcasts. So we were just discussing off pod. Karolina isn't the biggest horror fan.
Nope, not for me.
No, not for Karolina, but I am the horror. I love horror so much. So maybe that's where we slightly differ in the content we'll cover. But also, like, I just feel like more and more people should be talking about, fat and plus size representation, really keeping a keen eye on the body diversity that is visible in films, especially new films as we're coming out, especially in the current age of, Ozempic and extreme weight loss that we're currently in,
Yes, I do know. I swear I've been watching I forget what series on Hulu, and literally every single commercial break is about GLP-1s and like weight loss and stuff. And I'm like, can we not?
Can we just have a break?
Yeah.
Let's rest.
I just feel like it's literally just like in my face. And I'm like, listen, if that's what you want to do, that's great. It's not what I want to do. So please stop.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how many times you click the not interested, it still somehow manages to find its way to your algorithm.
Yes, for sure it does.
Long. Okay, so obviously this podcast is called Fats on Film, and I was getting into, just kind of thinking about the word fat and what it means for me, and also recognizing that I probably hold quite a bit of privilege when I use that word in a more neutral way than I'd heard growing up. And I've had a few people replying to my comments saying that, they don't think of themselves as fat and they don't like to use the word fat, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't in any way to discredit anyone saying that, but I'm just trying to say that that's the kind of rhetoric I get sometimes. And I just wanted to ponder this with you, Karolina, like, what does the word fat mean to you? And how has your journey with that word been to a place where you sit with it now?
So, like most fat people, my relationship with the word fat is very complicated. Obviously, growing up, I was made fun of a lot for my weight, called all kinds of things, even in like grade school. Honestly, grade school was kind of the worst in terms of me being bullied for my appearance. I don't know if it's because we didn't have the filters to like do it. They didn't have the filters to like do it behind my back. And so they did it to my face, and then later they did it behind my back, and I just didn't hear about it. But
Yeah.
if I don't hear about it, it's not my problem.
It's not your business.
No.
Literally.
But then I took a trip to LA, like, I want to say 2 years ago, and I went to the Plus Bus, which is like a thrift,
Yes.
plus size. Love them. They're amazing. And I like met with fat people, and I was talking to them and like getting their perspectives on things. And I kind of from there was like, you know what? I need to start doing more things that I want to do despite, what people tell me to do with my body, which is basically just like hide until you lose weight. Don't do anything until you lose weight.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to make fat a more neutral term for myself. It's still, when I use it, I feel like it's fine. But when I hear like thinner people using it, I'm like, so I'm trying to work on that. As long as they're not using it in a negative way.
Well, this is the thing. Intention is like half the battle, right?
Yeah.
If someone was to call me fat in a neutral term, I believe I'm in the headspace now where I'm like, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. For example, if my husband was to like talk about me like with someone else, for example, we've just been to Disneyland, and I couldn't fit on all the rides because it's Disneyland. So, like, for example, if like my husband was relaying that story to other people, going, "Oh, well, Hannah couldn't get on the rides because she's a bigger person, she's a fat person," I wouldn't mind that at all because like the context is relevant and right in that context. But if someone was to come into my comments or slip into my DMs and use that word in a very negative way, well, of course, I'm not going to receive it kindly because it's not meant to be received kindly. But then at the same time, like, it is educating others, right? Like how we do with our podcast, with our content, that fat is like fundamentally a neutral word. But at the same time, recognizing that we've all been on our own individual journeys. We all have like our own histories, like bullying, like you say, 100% the same for me. And getting to a place of growth where it doesn't have that negative power over you takes time and effort. And I would never want to diminish that. And so like that's why hopefully with this like newer segment that I've added to the podcast where we discuss this word and what it means for us in the past, like for young Hannah, for young Karolina, and how it feels now. I don't want to in any way, what am I trying to say, like dilute the effort that it takes to get to a place of neutrality with this word.
Yes, it takes a lot of effort. And the funny thing is, I feel like thinner people get more upset when I use that word to describe myself. They're like, no, don't say that about yourself. And I'm like, it's just a undisputable fact that I am fat. It is a body type. And you're thin and I'm fat. And it's okay.
You're not fat. You're beautiful.
Yeah, I hate that.
I hate it. Like
I'm both.
Yeah, it's like undeniably obvious that they can be both. But again, it's because growing up, we have all of us have used the word fat interchangeably with ugly.
Yeah,
and so to really break down the semantics of that does take time and conscious effort to do. So like I really do understand why people jump to that defense because they hear it and they think you're calling yourself ugly.
Yeah.
And then it does fall on us as the fat people, as the people who are using that word in a more neutral term to educate, but it does get exhausting. It's like, just take a beat and hear what you've just said to me and figure out whether that was a positive or a negative thing to say.
Yeah. For sure. And then, of course, it's reinforced by the media that we watch, whether we're conscious of it or not.
Well, what a fantastic segue. It's like you're a podcaster.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
Who'd have thunk? Well, let's talk about the film we're here to discuss, which is The Goonies. The Goonies from 1985, an American adventure comedy film directed and co-produced by Richard Donner. Screenplay by Chris Columbus, not a man about town. I love Home Alone. And Steven Spielberg. Ever heard of him? Starring he's been in a few things. He's done a few things.
Yeah.
Starring Sean Astin, baby Samwise, Josh Brolin. Hello, wasn't expecting that. Jeff Cohen, Corey Feldman, Kerry Green, Martha Plimpton, and Ke Huy Quan. What a gorgeous little man. And it had a budget of $19 million, but in 85 money, so who knows what that's
Yeah.
worth now. And it made $125 million, so this is an absolute success. Critics came in and they reviewed it positively, and it has become a cult film. And as of 2017, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And in terms of award success, it didn't have a lot, but I really wanted to call out Anne Ramsey, who plays Ma Fratelli, for winning Saturn Award for the Best Supporting Actress for her role. And yes, that is the Goonies. we love to see recognition. And I'm just going to pass to Karolina. Please, could you let me and the audience know what the Goonies is all about?
All right. Well, this film is about a group of kids. They live in the Goondock, which is why they call themselves the Goonies, and their houses are being foreclosed on. They are going to be built into golf courses for the rich people that live around them, and they're trying to find a way to stop that from happening. And so they go upstairs to the dad's attic and they find this map, and Mikey's like, One-Eyed Willie, we can find his treasure. Let's go and we can save our houses and stay here. And so they go on this little adventure and they run into the Fratellis, who are like mobsters, not nice people, and Sloth, which is the mom's son, who, has mental and physical disabilities. And, they go on this little adventure trying to find this treasure. And yeah, that's what it's about.
And that's it. That is what this film's all about. So, Karolina, when we started speaking about you guesting on the podcast, you picked The Goonies because you called it one of your favourite films. So, when we talk about facts on film, why did The Goonies stand out for you?
The first time I saw it, somehow was in school. I don't know how we were allowed to watch this in school with the language and some of the content in it.
Yeah.
But I was 9 years old watching it in school.
Okay.
I don't know. But from then on, I was like, this is so funny and so good, and I love it so much. And I don't know if I necessarily recognized the fat characters in it. I just enjoyed watching it, which is, I feel like a lot of my childhood, I just kind of didn't pay that much attention. But yeah, so it became a quick favorite of mine as a kid.
Yeah, because as I mentioned earlier, it is a cult hit. Every anniversary, there's some kind of thing going on around the world to celebrate the anniversary. I know the cast came together during COVID to do a kind of screenplay reading, and this really has a strong place in people's hearts. But this was the first time I'd ever seen the Goonies for this podcast, which is a little bit mad, seeing as I like to call myself a film fan, and yet somehow I managed to avoid this. But yeah, it was really interesting to watch with a 2025 lens. And also, for me, not have any nostalgic, connection to it either. So yeah, so when we talk about the Goonies, for me, the obvious kind of fat character was Chunk, played by Jeff Cohen. What an interesting character. And, you mentioned there how you may not have recognized that he was bigger.
Sorry.
You okay? No, you're fine.
He's being crazy. Echo.
Is this
I'm going to let him out really quick.
No, you do you.
Because he's causing problems. Echo Mercury. Come on. He has an issue. Oh, he just wants attention. Leave it cracked. Hopefully he leaves and then I can close it.
Yeah, that's cool. No, not a problem otherwise. Wait. Bye, Echo. And we're back. No, that's cool. Yeah, so you mentioned earlier how when you were younger, you may not have recognized that Chunk was a bigger kid. And that's definitely something I really understand, because as a child, not that I didn't notice that they were bigger kids, but more that I didn't associate with them, because I had this fear that if I related to the fat character, then I would then kind of confirm that I'm also fat. Yeah. And when I was a kid, that was the worst thing I could ever admit to myself, because obviously, as we mentioned earlier, fat was a negative word. So do you remember what 9-year-old Karolina thought of Chunk when you first watched this film?
I just thought he was hilarious.
Did you?
One of my favorite parts is when they have the blender and he's like, and then I threw it over the side. And this is the worst part. People were getting sick on each other. That part cracks me up every time.
No,
I was laughing out loud watching it last night.
But that whole scene of when he's like, the worst thing you've ever done, and he just goes on and on listing all these horrendous things he's done, and then like they go to another scene, and then they come back, and he's still talking. It's so silly.
It's so funny. And then one of the brothers is like, I'm starting to kind of like this kid.
Yes, yeah.
Chunk's great. He's literally probably my favorite. Not just because he's fat, but just because he's just so funny and lovable.
Yeah.
And I do see myself in him a lot.
Do you?
Because I'm definitely like the goody two-shoes, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
of my friends, especially growing up. I like hated being in trouble and didn't want to and he's like, guys, listen to me. And that's how I feel like I am sometimes. I'm like, if you just listen to me, everything will be okay.
Everything's
but
fine.
then you don't, and then things happen.
Yeah.
So
on your head be it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So with Chunk, when we're first introduced to him, it's at the very beginning when one of the Fratelli brothers or sons has been broken out of jail by his family. Oh my god, on that, when like you're in the jail scene and you see this hanging man, I went, oh my god, are we starting this film with like a suicide? That's so this is for children. And then it's like you really thought and then it all like, calamity ensues.
Yeah.
And so all the kind of kids catch this police chase happening through their town, which is how we're all kind of introduced to each of them individually. And when we first see Chunk, he has like a paper milkshake cup and I think a pizza in one hand. And he's like slammed up against the window because he cannot believe what he's seeing. And I was a little bit like, of course the fat kid's eating,
Yeah, he definitely, of course, the first time we see him, he has food. And pretty much every time that we see him, he's either eating, thinking about eating, talking about eating, smelling something.
Yeah,
it's a very big part of his character.
It's a very big part of his character. Like, there's a scene where I think they're kind of under the bad guys' lair. And Chunk kind of goes, oh, I can smell like chocolate and Rocky Road, and he like follows his nose and he finds this freezer filled with this ice cream, failing to recognize there's a dead body in the freezer. And there's a bit where like the dead body falls on him and he goes, it's a stick.
He's so funny. I can't.
Yeah, so like, but going to your point, he's so distracted by the smell of food, the idea of eating food, that he can't even see the danger happening right next to him,
Yeah. And one thing, going back just a little bit to like when the Fratellis are doing like the high-speed chase or whatever.
Yes.
I kind of love how that introduces all the characters, because you see how that event, it's the same event, but it's different for all of them. Like one of them doesn't even notice it. The other one thinks that the TV is still running and he's like, what is going on? Chunk obviously like sees it, and just all those different like perspectives. I really love that part.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because when he comes to Mikey and Bran's house to tell them what he saw, they don't believe him. And nobody believes him. But that actually is his own little arc, isn't it? That nobody believes Chunk. Because when he rings the sheriff and he's like, the Fratellis are down here. And like, oh, Chunk, is this about, and they're like, oh, did Michael Jackson come to your house to use the bathroom? Is this what it is again? And obviously we didn't see these incidences, but we're getting this idea built that Chunk is a little bit of a liar. He's a little bit of a storyteller.
Yes.
To the point where people just don't believe him anymore.
Yeah, they don't believe him. And he's also like the clumsy, like goofball.
Yes, the clumsy thing. Because, as a clumsy fat person, I want to say... Yeah.
I am too. So we are...
I'm like, representation matters.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're filling a stereotype. I just don't know. But yeah, I was like, oh, he's like a clumsy guy. And I don't know whether there is something in that, like, in terms of like the media portrayal, which is like, you're so big, you don't know like the kind of spatial awareness around you. But at the same time, I genuinely struggle with spatial awareness, but that's because I'm neurodivergent, not because I'm fat.
See, I feel like most fat people are overly aware of the space that they take up, because we're like fat and we don't want to like inconvenience anyone.
Literally.
And so, yeah, I'm just clumsy. I don't know. I literally in high school, it was my senior year, I was at like a theater like fest thing and I tripped, didn't fall, and I broke my foot.
Wait, how is that possible?
I don't know. I just heard a snap and then it hurt so bad. So yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Oh my god, you must have like
You're like trying to figure it out.
Yeah, because like I'm like, how would that not have ended up in a fall?
That's a great question.
It's a really
I
good
don't
question.
know.
We need some footage so we can review.
Yeah, I know. Go back.
Let's go back. No, I mean, again, like, I've fallen down the stairs and broken my ankle, you know, and the thing is, I fall all the time. Like, I fall over all the time. I can't help myself. I don't know what it is. But at the same time, you know, thin people fall all the time. Like, and this is the thing, right? Like, it's not a stereotype because obviously all body sizes can be clumsy, all body sizes can lack spatial awareness. But when we talk about media representation of those things, unfortunately, the kind of fat stereotype does lean into this idea of like clumsiness or lack of self-awareness, which to your point you were mentioning earlier, like actually is probably the opposite because we don't want to make a scene. And if you're clumsy, you tend to make a scene out of it. The amount of times I've fallen over and my husband's come over to me and like, I think it's hilarious and I'm like kind of on the floor just like laughing like what have I done and he's like coming over like get up, just get up, and I'm like I can't now, I'm laughing too much because now you're getting a little bit embarrassed, but it's making it funnier for me, so now I can't get up even more, so it was just making the whole situation worse. But yeah, like, but I think on the round this idea of like, we talk a lot about this a lot, the kind of fat experience, right, of wanting to not be perceived, but you cannot help but be perceived because you just, attention gravitates towards you because of your size.
Yeah. I had this girl who recently, like, I don't want to name names, I'm trying to keep her like anonymous, but she recently came into my life and I didn't really know her, but apparently, so I used to play basketball as a kid.
Fun.
From like when I was, I want to say 8 to like 13, I played basketball.
Cool.
And she remembers me because I was a fat
You were the
kid.
big kid. Yeah. Playing basketball.
But I don't remember her at all. She's like a blonde white girl, which is literally everyone from around. I say that as a blonde white girl. But you know, I had the fatness, so people are like remember, but I was like, yeah, I don't remember playing against you.
That's interesting.
At all.
Yeah, because it becomes like your moniker, like that's what you're known for, especially if you're playing sports and stuff. Yeah, I mean, being a fat person playing sports, especially younger, was always difficult because it was always like, you play sports?
I get that all the time when I mention it. I'm like, yeah, I did basketball, volleyball, t-ball. I was in a running club when I was little. I hated that. It was not fun. I hate running. And then I also did dance for like 11 years. So like, yes, I was an active kid, but I was still fat. Like that doesn't, People are like,
fully.
What?
No, like I was fully the same. Like it's funny, when I was in like, so my life story is I grew up in Scotland until I was 13 and then we moved to Spain. So in Scotland I don't really remember doing that much sports apart from like, you know, swimming and stuff. But then when I moved to Spain, maybe because the weather was better, I picked up golf and I picked up karate. And so when people would always be like, you know, you obviously need to make, you know, go out, you know, be a bit more active. I was like, I do sports 5 days a week. 5 days a week I'm doing sports. Like I am an active person, but I was always a chubby kid. And it just didn't compute in people's minds that could even be a possibility. I remember my PE teacher, and I'm going to call her out. Her name was Mrs. Lovell. Fucking hated her. And she was like, she would always, because one of we're going off on a tangent, folks. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's good.
It's all good. It's worth it. It makes sense. But one of, like, you know, when you got like report cards, and for PE, in order to get like a pass, you had to run a certain distance within 10 minutes. But I was never a runner. You know, you give me a basketball, I'm going to go up and down that court. I loved netball. I'm not sure if you have netball in the States, but anyway, another sport. Yeah, so like I love like team sports, an actual like goal, like I've got to score
Mm-hmm.
a goal. But tell me I have to run a certain distance by a certain time. My body doesn't compute. So
Yeah.
I would try so hard, Carolina, to get to do it,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the closest I did it was, I think I did it within 11 minutes, 20 seconds. And she still failed me. And so come parents' evening, like, she has to be like, well, Hannah didn't pass because she didn't do the running, blah, blah, blah. And my mum and dad are there going, but she does golf like 3 times a week. She does karate twice a week. I was training for my black belt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was an active, fit person. But because I didn't fit into this incredibly narrow definition of what fitness was,
Mm-hmm.
I failed. Like, I'm already fat. Like, what are you doing to my like psyche by
Yeah.
failing me on this incredibly narrow parameter, you know?
Yeah. Also the fact that you were trying your hardest and she still was like, no.
I know. I was trying so hard. What's really ironic is after school, when I became an adult and after uni and all that good stuff, I actually did get into running, and I learned how to run for me. And I realized, oh, you don't, because no one ever taught me. It's not about
Yeah.
going as fast as you can for as long as possible. It's about like preserving your energy and like, running at a pace which is comfortable for you. And I
Mm-hmm.
got really into running, and I thought, why did no one tell me this when I was younger,
Maybe this is why people enjoy it, because they're not like, busting their butts to necessarily meet a
Yeah.
certain goal.
It's funny that as soon as you remove any kind of strict parameter of what is success, people can enjoy it
Mm-hmm.
and actually make it
Crazy.
fun. Crazy. Who'd have thunk?
Oh.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Did you guys have pacer tests where you're from?
yes, we call it the bleep test here.
Okay, yeah. That
Hell.
is part of my nightmares.
Yeah, hell.
I
Hell.
hated it.
I had to do it in the UK when I was still in Scotland, and I only did it the once, and I think I gave up. I don't know. I did not last long. And I knew I wouldn't.
Me neither.
Yeah, but I remember like sitting down and watching like the really like athletic people just like beast it, and I'd be in awe of them because I'm like, that is like what an amazing skill to have. But
Mm-hmm.
clearly, not everyone has it.
Yeah. Yeah, luckily, we were not graded on our like ability to do things. It was more on our effort. So
That makes
that
so
was
much more
nice.
sense.
Yes, it does. Because like that's so dumb. Not everyone's gonna have the same abilities, especially in athletics. Like that doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. Great, like grade me on anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, we used to play dodgeball. I used to love dodgeball. It's so much fun, but that wasn't apparently gradable.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Anyway, yeah. So now I have lifelong beef with Miss Lovell, wherever
I
she
feel
is
that.
now.
I have lifelong beef with my old course and band director that I had in high school because he was verbally abusive towards me.
I mean,
Yeah, Mr.
why?
Raybeck, if you're listening, I still hate you.
Well,
You're
it's not
awful.
over.
I told my mom that so we got a new band and course teacher who I loved my last year of school.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I was like, if he would have stayed the second I got that diploma, I would have told him off. And I do not like confrontation, but I was like, this man needs to know how awful he is.
Mm-hmm.
So
God, I hope he does. I hope someone else, wherever he went after you.
I hope so too. But yeah, he was awful.
Honestly, I mean, it sucks that, like, I do believe there are more bad teachers than good, just because I remember the good teachers I had, and they are far and few between.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know. It's such a thankless
teacher,
job.
As a teacher, I'm really hoping that I'm one of the good ones because I'm a teaching assistant at a daycare. And so I'm still trying to get into the media stuff.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, well, this is the thing.
No
we
one
all
wants
have jobs.
to hire you or pay you.
Or the pay. Someone asked me literally like a couple days ago, like, it was something along the lines of, you must be getting so much money, you're so successful. And I was like, babe, I don't get paid for any of what I do.
Yep.
I made £80 on TikTok. That's how much I've made. And I'm not mad at that. I'll take it. It's £80 I didn't have. But I'm just saying, like, that's, there are no brand deals. There are, no sponsorship opportunities that come with the podcast just yet. Like, it's something I do because I think it's important and I love
Mm-hmm.
it, but it does not pay
Exactly.
my bills.
No, it does not.
No,
Same.
no,
It does not pay the bills.
it does not pay the bills.
I solely do it for me and all the other fat people out there that are like, hey,
Hey,
look at that, So, yeah,
literally, it's all about creating that safe space because it's something
absolutely.
we wanted, right? Like, it's something we wanted growing up. So therefore, I literally said this phrase, like, I am being the change that I want to see in the world. Like, I
Yeah.
wanted a safe space growing up, so I am now creating that safe space.
And then obviously we still have a long way to go because, we have movies like, I haven't seen it, but like The Whale and things like that are still coming out and being praised.
Praise is the big problem. We have done The Whale on this podcast. I did it with Abby from the More Than Tracy Turnblad pod.
I've had her on, yeah.
Yeah,
Love her.
fantastic person. So knowledgeable. And so we spoke about The Whale, and because she's a theatre kid,
Mm-hmm.
she'd seen the play, she'd read the play, so she brought in all this information I just didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're absolutely right. Not only was it a film that got made, it's a film that got praised, and it's a film I love. Brendan Fraser, I'm very happy for his comeback. All support,
Yeah.
support. But really, that film, that's the one.
Yeah, it's not great. And so those things are still happening. I also just made a TikTok about, like, I don't know if you watch SNL. I don't normally, but I saw like clips of Timothée Chalamet on it.
Okay.
And they were like, the whole sketch was just fat jokes, basically.
Wow.
And I was like,
really?
Yeah. And I was like, why is this still happening? Like, fat jokes are so unoriginal and so like surface level and easy. I'm like, get better writers if that's all that you can come up with.
There's just this real desire to punch down constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And when you push back and say, maybe let's not punch down, like maybe let's not go after people who are oppressed because of their body size, or people who are members of marginalized and incredibly vulnerable communities. That's when you get the pushback of like, oh, we can't make jokes about anything anymore. And it's like, no, we just want you to make smarter, more intelligent jokes. That's literally, if you can't, as a comedian or as a comedy writer, make jokes which don't punch down, then guess what? You're not good at your job.
No, you're not. And a lot of them aren't good at their job.
But
they have a platform because white men think it's funny. And so they're like, tee hee hee, I like this guy.
Yeah, like, oh, he's so original.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, he's really not.
He's really not.
That was like when Matt Rife got really popular. I did not like him from the beginning. I was like, something's off about this guy.
Right, yeah.
He gives me bad vibes. I don't like it. And then lo and behold, what happened with all of his stuff. And I was like, why are you guys surprised?
Yeah, what did they expect was going to happen?
Yeah. So.
And it's also like the emboldenment of it. Like, we talk about this a lot in like today's day and age, like people who maybe 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago might have, kept those thoughts inside because they knew like the wider public wouldn't appreciate it because we had empathy and we cared about our fellow person and we didn't want to cause offense. Well, that's gone now.
It flew out the window.
Yeah, so now everyone just says exactly what they're thinking because freedom of speech, remember?
Yeah.
Freedom of speech. But apparently, like, when you kick back about that, they don't like that. And I was like, yeah, but I have freedom of speech. Like, if you have freedom of speech, I'm allowed to tell you that I don't like what you've just said. Sorry. No, please.
I literally took a college course on the First Amendment. And so when people say stuff like learning like the parameters of what exactly freedom of speech means, everyone needs to be required to take that course because literally the amount of times I hear that and I'm like, that's not how it works is crazy.
So what do people get wrong about it?
Just like where and when you can say, because sometimes there's, like disturbing the peace is a thing. And then also like defamation, if you're just making baseless accusations, that's another big thing. And like hate speech, if your hate speech incites a group of people to do something, you can be held responsible. And just things like that. And then also I feel like most people are like, it's my First Amendment. I can say what I want. And I'm like, you sure can. But there are probably going to be social consequences, at least, for what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So, like, yeah, you sure can. But people might come back at you with their freedom of speech and be like,
Literally.
not cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
100%. Like this, I always see it a lot, which is like, yeah, okay, freedom of speech, but not freedom of consequence. We are also allowed to make a decision based on what you said. And if that is, for example, if you're a family member and what you've said has meant that I'm actually going to cut you off for that because I don't feel like you're a safe space for me or anyone I may bring into the circle, then they'll kick off being like, well, I'm being persecuted for my beliefs. No, you're not. You're not at all. We're all, because like we're all just trying to fucking live. And this is something like I say so often, especially because in the UK, we have such a massive divide about immigration and who should be allowed into the UK, blah blah blah. First of all, I want to just like put this right now. Borders are made up. Borders are made up. We are just so lucky.
They're pretend lines on a
pretend
map.
lines that they went, okay, this is now your land and this is now my land, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're all just trying to live. And your average person is just, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, creed, whatever it might be, is just trying to live a peaceful life. That's literally it. But the idea, and this is white supremacy talking, but the idea that you think that you're entitled to peace over someone else just because they don't look like you is insane. Just an inherent lack of empathy that, and then so then when you do say, hey, actually, I think that's really racist and really not okay. Like ultimately we're all just trying to live a life. You're called woke for that, which I think is insane. Like, you know what? Like, I don't think of it as an insult because I'm just like, well, okay, that's what I am, that's what I am. But at the same time, like, that's not being woke. That's just having empathy. Like, that's all it is. And I just don't understand where that got lost. And I can only assume it's because we live in such a hyper individualistic society now. Which is not good. And coming back to what we were saying earlier about, one of the reasons why we do what we do is because we're trying to build community. That is a real threat to the powers that be, right? If we pull together and realize we're stronger united, that is a threat to the bad people over here. And they're all bad. Can we just point out? They are all bad. They are no ethical billionaires. They are all terrible people. All bad. So constantly telling, the media telling you that, oh, it's woke to be empathetic, or, you can only think about yourself, only worry about whether your taxes are going to go up, blah, 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 is to keep us separated.
Yeah.
Because we're less powerful that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I feel the same way. I'm like, where did everyone's empathy go?
Where did it go?
Like, I consider myself, I know it's like cringe to be like, I'm an empath. I'm not gonna say that. But like, I am a very empathetic person. I care a lot about people and a lot about issues, so much so that like I have to take breaks. I'm like, there's so much happening right now.
Yeah. It's overwhelming.
I'm feeling just like emotionally burnt out. And there are so many people even around me, because I live in a very conservative place. Like, despite the fact that Illinois is a blue state, is a more democratic leaning state, I don't live in that area of Illinois. And so I see it all the time. People, have all kinds of Trump stuff going on and just things like that. And I'm just like, how can you vote for someone who just doesn't care about anyone else? And how can you not care? Because people all the time will be like, well, it doesn't affect me. I'm like, but one day it might. And also, like, it doesn't have to affect you for you to care about other people. That's crazy to me. I don't understand that mentality, like, at all.
I totally agree. And it's like, I mean, maybe that is the appeal of Trump, is that he is the most hyper individualistic, politician we have going in the Western world. And because we now live in such a hyper individualistic society, that is appealing. Maybe I don't know. Do I want to know?
No.
Because it's just like, he's a felon.
Yeah.
Like, he is not allowed to vote, right?
He's been impeached twice. I don't know about him
Because,
not being allowed to
wait,
vote.
how does the rule work? Because is it if you've been in prison, you're not allowed, if you're a convict, you're not allowed to vote?
I think it's like a certain type of conviction.
Right,
I
got you.
honestly can't remember because I
Wild.
don't plan on being arrested. Hopefully, ever. I'm like,
Not planning on it. Does anyone plan on it?
no,
No.
but I'm actively like trying not to.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm yeah, like, I just, it's beggars belief, but at the same time, like, what's happened over the past, what has it been, almost 3 weeks for you
yeah,
guys?
yeah,
And every day is just some other bamboozling, crazy, world-changing event.
yeah.
And I mean, there's a part of me, if I was to put my conspiracy hat on, it's just flooding the news. Like, everything he's saying actually isn't real. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's not in any way to take away over his statement about Gaza, because
Mhm.
truly horrifying Nazi level shit going on there. But for me, I was like, hey, that's interesting timing when Elon got all the access to the Treasury accounts. And now, because the news is so focused on that storyline, the Gaza-Israel storyline, we're not
Mhm.
longer hearing what's happening about the Social Security and Treasury
Yeah.
accounts and stuff like that. And I was like, that's interesting.
Absolutely. It's a media circus. They're trying to divert our eyes somewhere else.
All the time.
And also, like, they're trying to cause so much chaos that we don't know where to look. We don't know
Yeah.
how to feel. And we
what's
just feel
real?
like frozen. Like,
Yeah.
like we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definitely part of the tactic for sure.
It's vicious, because coming back to what you were saying about that emotional burnout you're feeling, when do you rest? Because it's just constant.
Yeah, because social media kind of used to be my rest. And now if I scroll on TikTok, like every other video is something about something going on politically. And I'm just like, I want to know, I want to be educated, but also
Sure.
like, I need a little break.
I need
Please
some
and thank you.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I went to Disneyland for my birthday literally this week on Monday, and it was the best day ever. I had the best time. But there's a part of me that goes like, what an odd time to go to Disneyland. Like, 'cause,
Yeah.
like, the world is falling apart, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, like, I'm also just human. I'm also just a baby, just trying to, like, have
Yeah.
fun and be silly and enjoy my life. And I feel that that's hard at the moment. So
Yeah.
take the wins where we can, I guess, would be
For
the
sure.
message.
And I've heard and been trying to remember that like enjoying your life is not bad. Actually, like joy can be resistance.
Yeah, I like that.
Rest can be resistance. Like, because they want us to be so upset and so like exhausted. And so, you also have to take care of yourself before you can take care of other things.
That's a very good point. And if you were going to relay that back to like diet culture and the reason why it's on the rise or like thin as in is so on the rise at the moment, again, is another tactic to keep us distracted. Because if we're hungry, you can't resist.
No, I think her TikTok name is like, and her name's Victoria, but it's like fat feminist or whatever. And she's like, listen,
I just love her. Yes.
Yes. She's like, listen, if you're hungry and like not eating and stuff, you can't fight fascism. So think about that. And I was like, period.
We've got to keep fueled. We've got to keep, remember what is the actual goal here. And if you, again, remove that individualistic focus, because obviously, again, if you are just thinking about yourself, then I can totally understand why you would hyperfixate on your weight or what you look like. Yeah. But if you take that hyper individualistic lens off again, really, you're going to be looking at, okay, well, am I fed? Is my family fed? Right? Do we have the energy to keep going? And it just, again, it really just harkens back to this idea of community. And that is the best way, kind of going back to resistance, is community, finding joy within that community, because that makes you want to stay.
Yeah.
And rest. I love what you said about rest. Rest is resistance as well. Look after yourself. This went on a massive political tangent. And I probably will cut out a bit of that just because.
I figured you would. I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? We're having a good conversation.
No, I really enjoyed it. It was cathartic for me.
Yeah. But another thing, because I mean, it's also still a little political, but you were talking about how there's like a big class divide
Yes.
in your country. And so, like, also in the movie, there's a big class divide.
Very good point. Yes, yes, yes. Because of course the rich. Well, is it Andy's like beau, who's not Brand?
It's Troy. Yeah, he wants to be with her.
With the letter jacket.
Yeah.
We don't
And
have them in the UK. It's such an American film thing. Oh my god, I just want one so bad.
my brother has like a Letterman jacket, but I've never had one, never had anyone give me one. I feel like it's not as popular now. Maybe
No.
in the 80s when this movie was made, it was like,
The
that
Breakfast
is
Club.
the thing.
Yeah.
You know that you are into someone if you're wearing their jacket.
That's what you would do. You'd give them your jacket.
Yeah. Which is why she gives it back. She's like, you know what? Actually, screw you.
Yes. And they say romance is dead. That is what we should bring back. I want that. I want more Letterman jackets for no reason. I'm going to tell Graham he has to buy one and give it to me.
That's awesome.
It'll have to be so many sizes bigger because I'm a bigger person than he is. But that's
another reason why I never got a jacket. Is I was like, all these boys are smaller than me.
Literally.
So there's no way. But yeah, so you have like the rich people who are trying to take over the Goonies houses and build, you know, the rich people's country club and golf course and all this stuff. And then you have the Goonies.
Go?
What?
Where are the Goonies meant to go?
I feel like Data is the only one who actually says where he's moving to, and I don't remember where. But it's like a different state.
Oh my
God. They're meant to like move. So, but yeah, it's so sad. They're like,
it's
we're not going to see each
really sad.
other.
And there's a really good line. I think Mikey might say it, who's definitely like the heart of the group, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He says something like, our parents have been trying so hard, it's our turn to try. It's that kind of rhetoric. And I was like, oh my god, sweet baby, that you should not have this pressure on your shoulders.
I had the biggest crush on Mikey.
Did you?
When I was little. He's just such a sweetheart. I'm a sucker for like a sweet little nerd. Like,
yeah, well, you know what? I actually wrote down because I was like, Mikey, he was so smooth when they get to the pirate ship. Also, side note, the pirate ship is cool, and I read that they built that for real.
Wow.
And they originally they hadn't shown the cast the ship because they wanted to get their authentic reaction on camera. So when they jump into the water, then they see it, and they were like, "Oh my god!" And apparently, Josh Brolin just went, "Fuck!" and they couldn't use it, so they had to do it again.
You wanted his honest reaction there.
Well, this is the game we're playing.
So,
but yeah, so they get onto the boat, and Andy and Mikey have had this like weird tryst like in the waterfall by this point where she thought she was kissing Brand when it's actually Mikey. Does Brand wear braces? No. This is dodgy.
Have you not noticed his mouth?
Andy, this is really dodgy territory. But yeah, and she goes, oh, do you really think there's treasure here, Mikey? And Mikey goes, Andy, this whole ship's a treasure. And I was like, oh, what a line. I love that.
Yes, and he's even like so sweet enough to be like, this is for Willie, don't touch this, which I mean in turn we find out like, oh, it's booby trapped.
It's booby trapped.
Definitely don't touch it. But he doesn't know that. He's just like, you know what? He fought so hard to keep us from this and keep people from this. This is his. Everything else is fair game. Yeah. Just not this. And that's just so sweet.
No, he is sweet, and I totally didn't even recognize him as Sean Astin. Like, when I was watching, I was like, he doesn't look like... I mean, obviously, I know he's, like, in his 50s now, so it's a bit different. But I was like, I didn't even recognize him at all as little baby Samwise.
I feel like most of them look different. What's weird is... Well, not weird. It's pretty predictable. But when I was, like, looking up stuff for the Goonies, just to do my own research, everything I looked up about Chunk is, like, look how the actor went from Chunk to Hunk. because he lost a bunch of weight now and he's
Sure.
like super buff. And I'm like,
He's a
yeah. And I'm like, listen, good for him if he wanted to do that, but like, he's more than just that. Like, why are we? Yeah, it's
but he
just,
was also a child. He is now a 50-plus-year-old man. Like,
yeah,
bodies change. Funny that, right? Bodies have
crazy.
changed.
Crazy that
Crazy.
you're not the same size you were when you were like, I don't know, 12. I want to say,
12. Yeah, I want to
I
say
don't know
12.
how old they were, but
They
yeah.
were young.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just
Like middle
like,
school,
yeah.
13, 14.
Like, how is that a news story?
And there are so many of them. I'm like, dear Lord, we get it. We
We
get
get
it. He has muscles now. We got it.
we
He can't
get
do the
this.
truffle shuffle anymore.
Yeah.
He can't do it.
Okay, let's talk about the truffle shuffle for a sec.
Yes.
Because I was like,
Yeah, it's pretty messed up
yeah.
of his friends to be like, you have to make fun of your fatness in order to come in.
Well,
Yeah.
they say like mini jerk alert, I think is what they say, like mini, because that's what they say when they see like someone and they don't like jerk alert. But I think they go
Mm-hmm.
mini jerk alert, and then they're like, "Come on, guys, let me in, let me in." Like you're gonna have to do the truffle shuffle.
Yeah.
So Chunk lifts up his cute little Hawaiian shirt and shakes his body.
Yeah.
Shakes his body in order for his fat to jiggle. And I think the most important bit, Carolina, is the sound effect that they have played over the top, which is like this almost like jelly, like
Yeah.
shake sound that they've added. And I was like, that was gross. Did not enjoy that. As a 33-year-old woman watching this at 2025 lens, did not like
Yeah.
that at all for poor Chunk.
No, it's definitely sad. Of course, when I first watched it, I didn't recognize like his friends are kind of bullying him. Like that's not cool. I just
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's silly. That's so funny.
Of course, but that's what you're meant to think, right? That's what you're
Yeah.
meant to think. But again, if I was to bring in like Matilda, right,
Mm-hmm.
another film from our childhoods, which has a fatter character put on display for, and I'm going to say quote unquote entertainment reasons,
Yeah.
and it's in a grotesque way. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, there is a trend, and there is something we are telling our children about how fat people should be treated.
Yeah. It's crazy because yeah, both of those things are made for kids, and
Mm-hmm.
so it is informing kids how they should see people in the
Yeah.
world. That's what media does for everyone, but I mean,
Literally,
kids
yeah.
arguably the more like malleable in that way, like they are forming their ideas of the world and
Mm-hmm.
they're seeing these things, whether it's like fat people or minorities or people with disabilities, because there's that in this film too.
Yes.
I feel Sloth's portrayal is also an issue for
I
sure.
Again, I knew of Sloth because I
Hmm.
exist in the pop culture, right? But I was again quite shocked at how the family, the Fratellis, treated Sloth. Like there was a line where they said he better not have broken out of his chains again. I don't want to go back to the zoo. I'm like, why
Hmm.
are you chaining this poor man up? Like it was horrifying.
Yeah, and he turns out is a sweetheart, you
And
know.
he saves the day.
Yeah. And then when Chunk is like, "You're gonna come live with me," and
Yeah.
I'm always like, "Oh, did your parents approve of that?" But also like, sweet.
Literally, I was like, have you spoken to your parents?
Yeah, I
You're
was
just
like,
offering this grown man who needs care, right?
yeah,
Into it into your house. Like, if they're up for that, oh my god, crack on, please. But yeah, very like we need to have a conversation. Just make sure all of Sloth's needs are met. Also, let's talk about the nicknames because Mikey is the only one who hasn't got like a nickname, which I find very interesting.
is Brand a nickname or is that just his name?
Is that his last name? No, it's
Maybe.
Walsh, isn't it? They're Walsh.
Yeah.
No, because their mum calls him something else, and then he goes,
Okay,
"It's Brand, Mom," and I can't remember what his actual name was.
I gotcha.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
but you obviously
Mikey,
got Chunk, and I was like, sure, original mouth
Mouth.
for Corey Feldman, which makes sense because he's got a big mouth on him. Data because he's smart. But
Yeah, and
again,
he
we're
invents things.
yeah, we're falling into the Asian geek stereotype there.
Yeah.
Love his little inventions, though. And then when you meet his dad and he's also got the little camera, love that. That was cute. Who else am I missing? Sloth.
Sloth, yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, and I never remember her friend's name.
No, it's Martha Plimpton, isn't it? Yeah, her character.
Yeah. They have their names. Is there anyone else? I feel like that's the Goonies.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
the Goonies, yeah. And I just thought, like, between like Chunk and Sloth, I was like, they're probably the most what's the word I'm trying to look for? Like rude, rude, devalued,
Nickname.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if Sloth is, I don't know what that comes from.
I mean, I get because it's not like he's lazy.
No.
I wouldn't say he looks like a sloth.
No.
So where
So
does
I have no
sloth?
clue.
Yeah, but again, like watching how Sloth's treated by. I mean, obviously that whole family is like 50 Shades of
Horrible.
mixed up. Yeah, like
Yeah.
really weird. But then to like, why does the character of Sloth actually exist? Because they're already evil. Like, I don't think we
Mhm.
needed. They're pulling guns on children. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're
Yeah.
not good people. But then to have them also have this brother who they abuse.
Mhm.
And it's also kind of like, I don't know if it's played for laughs, but I don't know, what is it played for?
I don't know, but I do think that it kind of obviously is ableist and reinforces the idea that like people with disabilities are like maybe scary or something to be avoided or feared.
Yeah.
And so that's not
Because,
great.
when Mikey first sees Sloth, he is scared of him.
Mhm.
And I think, I can't recall when Chunk, because obviously then that becomes Chunk's storyline, right?
Mhm.
Is him and Sloth escaping together.
Yeah.
How's Chunk's first interaction with Sloth? Do you remember?
He's scared of him,
Is he?
but then he like starts to do his like freak out and he's like bouncing in the chair and screaming, and then Sloth thinks it's funny. So then he laughs, which kind of like loosens up Chunk a bit, and Chunk like nervously laughs. And then they end up sharing like a Baby Ruth
Yeah.
bar. Yeah, so he freaks out a couple times and it makes Sloth laugh, and then he's still scared when Sloth like picks him up to break the chair so that he can like be free. But then after that he's like, we're buddies.
Yeah. And they are buddies. And I do like that. And I wanted to ask
Mhm.
because I was quite surprised actually to see, like, obviously the main chunk of the characters go off and they're doing all the booby traps and solving all the riddles to go find a treasure. But Chunk is the one who gets separated. And he
Mhm.
goes off on his own adventure with Sloth and like with like fighting back against the Fratellis. Like how do you feel about that the kind of fat kid character is the one that's isolated from the group?
I mean, I do kind of love that he has his own storyline just because I love the character so much. I didn't think of it in terms of like he's being excluded from the group. I think it was cool for them to kind of highlight the fat character a little more than they probably would have had he gone on the adventure with them. And I also think it makes sense because he didn't really want to go. And then like being with Sloth, he was kind of forced out of his comfort zone to like help him. And so I really do like it. I do obviously wish that his storyline wasn't as heavy on food
Yes.
as it is. But I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
Personally.
No, you're absolutely right. Because I think if say Chunk has been part of the main group and like maybe you swap out Data for Chunk in the situation or Mouth, he could have got lost because there's so many people in
Yeah.
that main storyline. Like, you mentioned that you don't remember Martha Plimpton's name. I don't remember her name because there's like 7 of them. That's a lot of like kids to keep your eye on. So actually, maybe if Chunk had been involved, we would have lost him in the shuffle. Pun not intended. But with him having his own storyline, he gets to be the main character of plot C, and that's cool. That is cool.
Yeah. He gets to be his own little hero guy
Yeah,
in it.
he is a hero because
Yeah.
he saves Sloth, and then Sloth saves him back.
Yeah. He's so
Cute.
sweet. The only other one that I could think of that they could have done like a separate plot on, like swapped out, would be Mouth.
Yeah.
I think Mouth could have been interesting just because he's so like antagonistic.
Very.
But they for sure would have killed him, the Fratellis. And Chunk for sure probably would have also died if he had gone on the adventure, I feel like. I feel like he'd be so busy worrying about stuff that he wouldn't see something happening and just like by Chunk, unfortunately.
But Goonies don't say die, Karolina, so no one would
true.
die.
But that doesn't mean they don't die. I mean, they don't in the movie, but
they don't in the movie. There's like an R-rated version of this film. Well, I mean, Indiana Jones is this film, but just for adults.
And the guy, I never can pronounce his name right, so I don't want to try. But the guy who plays Data, he's in Indiana Jones. He's in one of them.
Yes, he's in the second one. He's in Temple of Doom. Ki Kwan Hay. He plays Short Round in Temple of Doom, which controversially is seen as the worst film, but it's actually not that bad. There are worse Indiana Jones films. I've not
seen any of the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh my god. Okay, so first of all, you absolutely do. Because they are so fun. Okay, and also, yes, okay, they're going to be misogynistic. Yes, okay, maybe a bit racist nowadays. And I think there is some brown face going on. Yes, I think there is. But they were made in the 80s, so we give a pass, kind of, sort of. We go, is part of the time. But you only need to watch the first three, because the other two, which are the more recent ones, like 2000 and blah, 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 and then literally like 2 years ago, are shit. They are bad. They are not good films. But the first three are really fun.
I'll have to I have like the longest list of movies to watch ever. Like, despite being a film and media major, like I haven't seen, people freak out because I haven't seen a lot of like the classic ones. Like Pulp Fiction is on my list, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of the Godfathers. I haven't seen Jurassic Park. I haven't seen E.T. Like some really iconic movies that I just like.
Jurassic Park is one of my top 4 films of all time. If Letterboxd were to interview me, like if I'm on the red carpet and they're like, oh my god, Hannah, what are your 4 favorite films? Jurassic Park is making that list because I walked down to the Jurassic Park theme tune down what's it called?
The aisle.
I walked down the aisle to that song because it's a banger.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But then I have this problem with film for sure, like with film bros, like, oh my god, like you don't think The Dark Knight's one of the best films ever? No, I don't, okay? I don't. Do I think do I think Heath Ledger would have won an Oscar if he hadn't have died? No, he would not have. He wouldn't have been even in the conversation. Like, that is a harsh bit of reality of The Dark Knight, okay? I like Pulp Fiction. Sure I do. I'm a human being. Is it one of my top films of all time? No. I'd much rather rank the Kill Bills over Pulp Fiction any day of the week. They are good films. I've seen the first Godfather, but not the other two. But I think it's just such again, coming back to class, right? Is this like real like classist idea of like, oh well, you can't have good opinions because you've not seen these films. And you hear this thing with music, where like, oh, you don't like the Beatles? No, I think they're fine. Do I recognize that they would have been amazing at the time? Sure. Do I like them now? No. Do you not like Bob Dylan?
Some of their songs, but
yeah,
I don't listen to Bob Dylan.
No.
That whole biopic, I'm like, pass.
No, I'm good.
I do not care.
People keep telling me, oh, it's so good. Great. So happy for you. I'm so disinterested. We can't all like the same things because then it would be boring.
For sure.
My favorite artist of all time is Britney Spears. Okay?
I love that.
I love her so much. And I'm so happy we're getting to a point in the pop culture where like the pop girlies can say, oh yeah, my biggest inspiration is Britney Spears. Because like that would have been seen as such a joke before. Whereas now people really recognize how great she is. And I'm like, thank God, finally we're here. But like people always go, oh, my inspiration's Elvis. Oh, my inspiration's Bob Dylan. I'm like, so boring. Be inspired by someone else. Coming back to Chunk, I think we've spoken quite a bit about maybe his bad qualities. And when I say bad qualities, I think like it's just more about how he's represented and like kind of reinforcing those potentially negative stereotypes we have, like the clumsiness, like the food obsession. But like, what are his good qualities?
I think that he's overall a good friend. Like he cares about the safety and well-being of his friends more than they care about their own safety at times. And I don't know, he's just like a goofy guy. I love a funny person, and I don't know, he's just sweet. He's like we said, he's a sweetheart. He cares about,
He is
other
a
people.
sweetheart. He cares about Sloth. And one thing I would say about him is I think he has confidence. He's
Mhm.
very sure of himself. Okay, yeah, maybe he's a bit of a nervous Nelly when it comes to like physical danger, but that's not a bad thing. But he talks very confidently when he's in the group. He has his ideas. He will voice his opinions when he has them. And I think that was a really strong quality for Chunk to have.
For sure. Yeah. He definitely is confident despite the fact that his friends are kind of mean to him at times
At times.
and don't believe him.
I
Which,
don't
I
believe
mean,
it.
if you're lying about like Michael Jackson coming to your house, I don't know if I would believe you either. If you're like, this huge like shootout car chase happened and I saw it, I'd be like, sure you did.
Sure, Chunk. Sure. Yeah, and that thing, like, that's obviously like another little quirk of his personality, is that this little boy that cried wolf, and then he's shown
Mhm.
to be good in the end because there really was a pirate ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, like maybe that's part of his lesson that he needs to learn, is that he
Mhm.
needs to stop lying.
Because then people don't believe you. They
Yeah,
don't.
exactly. So moving on from Chunk, I was like, I always feel when that I talk about a film on this, usually we only have like one fat character to talk about because
Mhm.
casting in Hollywood and all that.
Yes.
And I like to think about like who else can we see in the background, and the background characters, any other supporting characters that are also bigger, or just a bit of body diversity going on. And the obvious pick for me was Ma Fratelli,
Mhm.
played by Anne
Yep.
Ramsey. She's a bigger actress for sure, right?
Yes. And I mean, she does there are so many stereotypes in this movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
so many.
Mm-hmm.
She does kind of fit into that villain trope that a lot of fat people get put in, and then also like her whole family, they're the Italian mobsters because of
Mm-hmm.
course they are. And so like yeah, this movie, if you're going to watch it if you haven't seen it, it's very stereotypical. It plays into a lot of those things, but it's also made in the mid 80s, so
Yes.
we give it a little lenience because of when it was made. But yeah, as a character, she kind of scared me a little bit as a kid, not gonna lie, just a
Yeah.
tad, just because she's so like aggressive and
She's
mean.
she's a very unmotherly mother figure in this film. But I thought it was, again, like you said it perfectly, like, she really does fulfill the female fat villain role. They haven't put her in any makeup. That's a really common trope we see with our fat female villains. Um they've put her in like kind of frumpy outfit. There's no
Yeah.
color. You could argue that there wouldn't be any color because villains don't tend to wear a lot of color. But yeah, no, she's just in a bit of a drab kind of clothing. Quite vicious in her words. She's very uncaring towards
Mm-hmm.
not only the able-bodied sons, but also like incredibly unkind and cruel to Sloth.
Yeah,
And then we
she's
find,
honestly like repulsed by him.
yes,
When she's
yes,
trying to like get him to chill, she's
yes,
like,
hug,
singing, and you can see her face and she's like,
yeah, that's
and
your
then
baby.
yeah, and then we find out that she dropped him at least twice,
At least
which is
twice.
why he is the way he
Potential.
is,
Yeah.
because brain damage, I'm assuming, and other things that happened. So yeah, she's not a good mother for
She's not she's not a good mother, she's not a good person. And so then I'm going, okay, great. So you have like all of these very you know, character decisions we're seeing. She's not a good person. She uses horrible, unkind language. She doesn't care about the well-being of these children that are like kind
Mhm.
of in around her. She doesn't care if they get killed in the pursuit of this treasure. She clearly doesn't give a shit about her sons. So then how do they then employ her body to like strengthen these stereotypes, and that, like I say, they don't put any makeup on her and all that. But the one thing that really shocked me was when there's a scene where our Goonies are kind of escaping again, and they're going across the little like the log bridge, and
Mhm.
Data uses his little um the slick trainers to make it oil
Yeah.
slicky, and it's cutting between the Goonies crossing the log and back to Mama Fratelli, and they purposely have put pig snort sounds over her breathing, so it sounds like she's a pig.
I did not even notice that.
Yeah.
And I've seen this movie.
I was like, because that's not how humans breathe.
No.
And I was like, that is a pig snorting.
My God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We didn't need to add that at all.
So why did they?
I would just guess just to reinforce the fatness and the evilness, but that's literally crazy.
Yeah, it's like, it's, for me, I took it as they're trying to reaffirm her unfitness. Like, she's like heavy breathing to the point where she's like snorting like a pig. And obviously pigs being very connected to fat people. We mentioned
Yes.
Piggy before we hit record, right? That's a fantastic fat horror film. It's pigs. It's funny actually, because I was going to say pigs are like synonymous with fat people, but actually a lot of animals are, right?
Pigs, whales,
Cows.
whatever else. Yeah, cows.
Like, yeah, they can just say that we're anything. I have a whale tattoo on my leg. First of all, I love whales. But secondly, like, because that word has followed me around, and I it's funny because I'm like, whales are amazing.
Yeah.
Pigs are amazing.
Pigs are so cute.
They're so cute.
I love.
Yeah, love a pig, love a cow. Like, I just think, why are we compared to such? I mean, it's obviously meant to be used as an insult. It's meant to use to dehumanize us, right? And we're no better than farm animals type thing. But they're like the cutest animals, and we know that like pigs are like super smart.
Yeah.
So like,
and
what's
maybe
the
that's
insult?
another reason why they did the pig snorts, maybe to dehumanize her.
Yes,
more.
I think so.
Yeah,
because she's so like caricaturely evil.
yeah,
Right, with the brothers, they're like slapstick, terrible kind of criminals who keep just like bickering with each other.
Yeah, like there's moments where you can be like, okay, I kind of like them, like they're kind of funny, even though they're like bad people. But her, she has like no redeeming qualities,
no light
at all.
No, she's so like, like so caricaturely evil. And I think to your point, I think it is just to make her so unhuman. Like, she's the opposite of what we think mothers are meant to be like. Again, like, I think in another film, her character would be childless, because she's so unloving, which I think is actually quite an interesting kind of switch up, where she is actually a mum. She's just like the worst mum in the world.
Yeah.
But for some reason, she has this. Well, she's obviously like just like an incredibly controlling person, because they're all doing their bidding for her.
Yeah, I do think it plays against, while it does play into like the villain, the female fat villain trope, kind of plays against the motherly, because fat people a lot of the times are cast in like the more motherly roles.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And she's like not warm or kind or any of those things that are associated with being a mom, being a good mom. And so, yeah, it does kind of fly in the face of that stereotype, at least.
That's a really good point. That is a very good point. Yeah, but like, apart from potentially subverting that stereotype, she's just a very bad person.
Yeah,
and like I mentioned at the very beginning, Ramsey won the Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actress for this role. Congratulations to her. She sadly passed in 1988. I read, so not long after this film came out. But yeah, she was scary.
Yeah, she had that down. I was not. I mean, I wasn't like, but I definitely was like, okay.
I wouldn't want to be like where Chunk is, like stuck with her.
No, I would have peed my pants or something.
Peed the pants.
I mean, he was stuck in a freezer with a dead body. For how long?
That could, you know what? Chunk over everyone. I'm actually, Sloth need therapy. I think everyone else kind of came out of that unscathed, but those two could do with some therapy.
Also, I'm curious why Andy thought that like this whole like possibly dying adventure was the time to like kiss everybody, like to have her romantic moments. She's like, it's now, and I'm like, is it now?
That's a really good point. But I think that's all women were good for.
Yeah.
back in these films, because you could argue that with like going back to Indiana Jones, like why on earth is Indy dragging along his love interest in these films? You know what I mean? Like that's what they are there for. Even like, again, we cannot remember her character name, but Martha Plimpton's character has this weird kind of moment with Mouth at the end of the film,
Hmm.
and you're like, why? This doesn't
Yeah.
need to happen. They could just be friends.
They're like frenemies. Like
Yeah.
they're constantly ragging on each other, which I kind of love that dynamic. And then she's just like, I'm gonna kiss you now because I'm a woman in an 80s.
Literally, I think it just does boil down to it, and men wrote it, like older men wrote it. What was I
Hmm.
watching? I watched Heretic last night, the Hugh Grant film, horror film. And so
Hmm.
this may
So I
not hit
have
your
not
radar.
seen it.
You're not seeing it. No, that's fair. But it's written by like older men.
Hmm.
And there was a point at the very beginning of the film where I went, first of all, women don't talk like this, but especially 19-year-old women do not talk like this. And it really turned me off. I did not like the film, which is controversial because people really like that film. I didn't. I thought it was boring. But anyway, I just thought, that's what happens when you have, I don't know, 40-year-old men trying to write for 19-year-old female characters. And we have this problem in this story where, like you say, you've got Andy being like, Brand, I'm in the waterfall. What do you mean? Girl, we are on a mission. There are goons chasing after us.
Yes. They're bad people, and you're worried about getting your first kiss. What is happening?
What is happening? And your first kiss is with like a 14-year-old boy with braces, and you're 17. Get a grip.
For real. And 14's being generous. He might even be a little younger.
He might even be
than
younger.
that.
I know, that's such a good point.
But yeah, it was just, I was like, why is now the time that we are deciding to do this? But yeah, because she's a woman in a 1980s
Yeah.
film.
Well, it's like, it really reminded me of the infamous scene in the book It, where you may not know this gang 'cause it's horror, but in the book, for some reason, Stephen King writes a orgy scene between all of the child characters when they're about to like face Pennywise for the first time. And for some reason, Hollywood went, we won't include that in the film. And funny, we're not going to include this underage sex scene. But
Yeah.
yeah, that exists. And Stephen King's obviously being challenged multiple times of why he would include that. And his response has been, because there's only one female character in that story, Beverly. So she has sex with all of the boy characters, right? Is this insane? And his reason is because he wants them to like bond before they face like the big bad of the film.
Is that how he thinks the only way that men and women can bond is through sex?
Well, I think that's ultimately what we're questioning here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have heard some weird things about Stephen King and his writing. I've only seen one Stephen King movie. It was The Green Mile.
Great film.
And it's so good. And I read part of it. Also, I'm literally terrified of clowns, so I will never in my life watch or read it.
No.
Ever. But yeah, that's so weird. And they're underage, and this is a grown man writing that.
They're like, yeah, they're about to be like 13 years old, I think, in the first one. But then I come back to, this is what, like, I'm like, okay, first of all, how much of this is fantasy? And like, secondly, do you genuinely think this is all women are good for? And not even women, girls, right? Young girls are good for. Because it's a very similar dynamic to like It. Is a very similar dynamic to Goonies. It's a very similar dynamic to Stranger Things. Like, it is this group of children trying to fight a big bad in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I guess the thing is, Stranger Things does have a lot of romance in it as well.
Yeah, I only watched a little bit of Stranger Things. I just think that it also shows the importance of having diversity behind the scenes
1000%.
as well as on the screen.
Yes.
Because like, if you're writing about a certain type of character and you don't have a person that looks like them in the room, it's not going to be accurate representation. It's just a fact. And that happens a lot. Like, I'd say close to like 95% at least of movies don't have the people that they are showing on the screen behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And which is why ones that do are so good. Like, like in my experience, really, really good. And so, yeah, diversity not only on screen, but off screen is just as important.
Yes, I think 100%, and which is why we're in like a really interesting point of representation in film or media, because um they know that people want diverse storylines, or potentially want diverse. It depends who you talk to. I
Mhm.
think most people want more diverse storylines, right? So we
Yeah.
want like different people in the leads. We want to see different stories. We don't want to see the same old thing we've been seeing for the past 50 years. But you've still got the same people writing it. And
Yeah. And
so for
making money.
and of
And
course
that's
making
their
that
big
coin.
goal.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of directors now, and maybe it was back then and I'm just recognizing it more now, are so focused on the money aspect that like
Mm.
the creative part of it is just like been thrown away.
Well, I think it's kind of chicken and egg in that situation, because I think Hollywood only want to invest in sure things,
Mhm.
and sure things, or there's a higher confidence in existing IP. So like doing requels or reboots or franchises and all that good stuff. And so they don't want to take a chance on a wholly original idea. So like a
Yeah.
really good example of this is Joker 2. So
Mhm.
Joker 2, so first of all, I don't like these films. Okay, I've not seen the second one. I don't like the first one. But the first film was made for I think like 40 or $50 million, and it made over $1 billion.
Oh, wow.
It was such a success, a massive return on investment for Warner Brothers. So what happened when it came to Folie à Deux is they increased the budget from 50 million for the first film to 250 million for the second film, because in their mind they went, well, hey, we will get 50 million returned $1 billion, then what could 250 million return, right?
Mhm.
Forgetting that it's just a bad film and people don't give a shit. So
Yeah.
it would have needed to have made, I think, because you need to make about 2.5 times your budget back in order to break even, because it's like
Mhm.
keeping in taking into account all like the marketing budget that goes into it. So it would have had to have made like something like 500 million to break even. To break
Mhm.
even. And it made, I think, in the end, like 150 or 200 million, because no one saw that film because it was trash.
Yeah.
And then I go, hold on. You've invested £250 million. First of all, who has this money? This money doesn't exist. But $250 million. You could have invested in 10 brand new ideas from up and coming creatives
Mhm.
for 25 million each. You could have got
Yeah.
10 films and diversified your portfolio. And some may have been successes and some might not have been, but you'd been investing in new ideas, new talent, like just anything to kind of revitalize this industry. But
Mhm.
instead, they're just putting all of their eggs in this existing basket, but that well is running dry because we are so bored of seeing the same thing again and again and again. And I look at the Goonies and I think at the time it would have come out, 1985, obviously peak Indiana Jones time, they've gone, hey, the kids love Indiana Jones, but it is maybe a bit too adult. What
Yeah.
if we put kids in that role and made it like, I don't know, a little bit more kid friendly? Bring in pirates. Who doesn't love pirates?
Mhm.
That's so smart. Like, that
Yeah.
is so smart. Why is that, like, creativity not something we're seeing being invested in today?
And also, that was very new,
Mm.
having kids and teens be
Mm.
leads, because I know, like, when the Brat Pack came about,
Yeah, yeah.
like, The Breakfast Club, the John Hughes movies, like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize, because I watched a documentary on it a while back, that there weren't those types of films. Like, it was adults in the main roles, like, it was not catered towards young adult audiences at all. And then, like, a switch sort of happened and, like, it became really, really popular. So I'm sure that that was around that time. And so they're like, hey.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I bet they thought, again, it might have just been one of those kind of black and white thoughts where they went, well, children's films are animated films. So, like Disney,
Mhm.
for example, those are children's films. Forgetting that,
Yeah.
of course, you could create live action films that would cater to children, not only cater to children, but also star children. That's cool. I didn't realize that. I hadn't made that connection before. Yeah. So we're in a weird time. in Hollywood and media where we've got people trying to create diverse stories but not having any diversity behind the camera. And then when we do have diversity in front of the camera, it's limited.
Yeah. There's definitely like people feel like it's sufficient to have one black character or one fat character, one Asian character, one character that, you know, has a disability, which I do think that Wicked did an incredible job at casting so many different diverse people. Like, it was crazy. I don't know. Did you see Wicked?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the best part of the film is, I mean, I enjoyed the film as a whole, but is the fact that it has so many different types of people.
Yeah,
And
it's rich.
And I have to assume that it's because those types of people were working behind the scenes as well. So
yeah, and it makes such a difference. I think we've talked about British sitcoms on the show because I think British sitcoms are slightly better body diversity at, like, say, our American counterparts, because it does feel like they've gone down the local high street and just like, hey, do you want to be in the background of this show? It just it feels like that. Obviously, it probably isn't because these are professional background actors. Wicked also, obviously, because it was filmed in the UK, I wonder if that was that element of kind of background casting. It was filmed at Pinewood, I think.
I do know it was filmed in the UK. I'm not 100% sure where.
Well, it is in the UK, but not at Pinewood. It was at Elstree Studios, which again is in Hertfordshire, which is, I don't know, maybe an hour outside of London. Yeah, so I wonder whether that kind of casting or that kind of taste of background casting is like quite a British thing, and maybe that's why it fed into Wicked. Obviously, I know it's got, like, you know, some cameos, and obviously there's some Hollywood actors in there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It did have just, I don't know, it instantly makes it feel like, oh, this is actually a genuine place where people live.
Yeah.
Rather than
it makes it feel more real. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, rather than just cherry picking the perfect slices of beauty standard, you know?
I'm like, not everybody looks like that. Like, I go into town and I see maybe one person that might look like that. And also, I have to mention, speaking of sitcoms in the UK, my mom is obsessed with Miranda. She watches it all the time.
I've never seen Miranda, but people love Miranda. Like, that is a big show here, or was a big show.
She loves it. I got her a
That's
subscription
a niche humor as well, because it's like very like slapstick.
Yeah, I got her a subscription to BritBox for Christmas because she's obsessed with, like, honestly anything British.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I was like, here you go.
Yeah, enjoy, just consume.
Yeah.
Consume all this content. Okay, so is there anything else you wanted to mention about the Goonies?
I think going back, there's just one thing, going back to the, like, socioeconomic, like, thing in it. I also want to mention that, like, it's more expensive to eat more fresh things, more quote unquote healthier things. So I feel like that also plays into the character of Chunk a little bit, because obviously his house is getting foreclosed on because his parents can't afford to pay or whatever. And so I feel like that is plays a little bit into how he is. And yeah, so
that is interesting. And, like, maybe that kind of plays into when he gets so excited about seeing the ice cream, because potentially that was like an expensive brand and his parents couldn't always get that, and it's exciting, right?
Yes.
That's a really good point. I hadn't considered that at all. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Other than that, I feel like we touched on a lot.
We really did. We really did.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, Karolina, at the end of a Facts on Film episode, we like to rate whatever we've just watched. We like to rate them on how well we think they represent fat bodies or, like, wider body diversity, and we like to rate them out of ourselves. So out of a 5 potential Karolinas, what would you give the Goonies for fat representation?
Fat representation, I'd probably give it like a 2. Because there are 2 characters, and I do really love Chunk, but, like, it's a lot of stereotypes, and it didn't need all of those, and, you know, it focuses so much on the food and all that stuff. So yeah, I think 2.
2. No, that's fair. So I was going to give it 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
So 1.5 Hannah's from me because, like, Chunk is grand. Like, I like him. I like his little journey he goes on. But I really hate his obsession with food. I hate the truffle shuffle bit. I hate how his obsession with food stops him from seeing danger, even though we've established how honed in he is to danger usually. So I just didn't love that. And then the half is for Ma Fratelli. Great to see another. I want to see a fat person on my screen at all times. I want them to get paid all day, all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But did not love how she was represented, and did not love those pig snorts.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna have to like
You have to
literally rewatch that
watch
scene.
it back, because I was like, that's 100% a pig snort.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm
That's
definitely gonna have to pay
crazy.
more attention to that
But
scene
like, it's
because
so subtle. Like, it was subtle. I'm
mm-hmm.
not saying it was like really obvious, but when I heard it, I was like, that doesn't sound like a human being.
Yeah.
Real bad. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation of the Goonies, Carolina. It's been a pleasure, and I'm glad I finally saw this classic film. So now, I don't know, I have an opinion on it, which I always love to have an opinion on something.
Exactly.
Could you let me and the listeners know where they can find more of you and your work?
So all of my social media is at Karolina Howie. That's on TikTok, Instagram, all the places. I'm not on Twitter.
No.
Personally. Even before everything, wasn't a big fan of Twitter. And then for my podcast on TikTok, it's at bbb.thepodcast, and on Instagram, it's at bbb.podcast. So if you like this, but maybe you want like a little bit more like, I don't know, musical theater, then come on over our way, because I'm a big musical theater nerd, so we definitely talk about that. So yeah.
So all the links for Carolina's stuff will be in the show notes below to make it super easy for you to go like and follow. And for me, you can find all of my fashion stuff and personal stuff on Queen Bee Says at TikTok and Instagram, and you can find the podcast at Fats on Film on Instagram at Fats on Film. Also, you can email me at fatsonfilm@outlook.com and just let me know your thoughts. Let me know any other things I should cover on this podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and I will catch you at the next one. And remember to stay fat. Woo!